Morning, I'm reading from the second book of Samuel, from the books of the Old Testament of the Holy Bible, the second book of Samuel, from chapter 18 onwards. And David numbered the people that were with him and set captains of thousands and captains of hundreds over them. And he sent forth a third part of people under the hand of Joab, a third part under the hand of Abishai the son of Zeruiah, Joab's brother, and a third part under the hand of Ittai the Gittite. And the king said unto the people, I will surely go forth with you myself also. And the people answered, Thou shalt not go forth, for if we flee away, they will not care for us, neither if half of us die will they care for us. But now thou art worth 10,000 of us. Therefore now it is better than thou succor us unto out of the city. And the king said unto them, What seemeth you best I will do. And the king stood by the gate side, and all the people came by hundreds and thousands. And the king commanded Joab and Abishai and Ittai, saying, Deal gently for my sake with the young man, even with Absalom. And all the people heard when the king gave all the captains charge concerning Absalom. So the people went out of the field against Israel, and the battle was in the wood of Ephraim, where the people of Israel were slain before the servants of David. And there was a great slaughter that day of 20,000 men, for the battle was scattered over the faces of all the country, and the wood devoured more people that day than the sword devoured. And Absalom met the servants of David, and rode upon a mule, and the mule went under the thick boughs of a great oak, and the head caught a hold of the oak, and he was taken up between the heaven and the earth, and the mule that was under him went away. And a certain man saw it, and told Joab, and said, Behold, I saw Absalom hanged in a yoke. And Joab said unto the man that told him, And behold, thou sawest him, why didst thou not smite him there to the ground? And I would have given thee 10 shekels of silver and a girdle. And the man said to Joab, Though I should receive 1,000 shekels of silver in my hand, yet would I not put forth my hand against the king's son. For in our hearing the king charged thee and Abishai and Ittai, saying, Beware that none touch the young man Absalom. Otherwise I should have wrought falsehood against mine own life, for there is no matter hid from the king, and thou thyself wouldst have set thyself against me. Then said Joab, I may not tarry thus with thee. And he took 3 darts in his hand, thrust them through the heart of Absalom, while he was yet alive in the midst of the yoke. And the 10 men that bare Joab and Shammah commenced about, and smote Absalom, and slew him. And Joab blew the trumpet, and the people returned from pursuing after Israel, for Joab held back the people. And they took Absalom, and cast him into a great pit in the wood, and laid a very great heap of stones upon him. And all Israel fled every one out of his tent. Now Absalom in his lifetime had taken and reared up for himself a pillar which is in the king's dale, for he said, I have no son to keep my name in remembrance. And he called the pillar after his own name, and it is called unto this day Absalom's place. Then said Ahimaaz the son of Zadok, Let me now run and bear the king tidings, how that the Lord has avenged him of his enemies. And Joab said unto him, Thou shalt not bear tidings this day, thou shalt bear tidings another day, and this day thou shalt bear no tidings, because the king's son is dead. Then said Joab to Cushi, Go tell what thou hast seen. And Cushi bowed himself unto Joab and ran. Then said Ahimaaz the king of Zadok unto Joab, But howsoever, let me pray thee, run after Cushi. And Joab said, Wherefore wilt thou run, my son, seeing that thou hast no tidings ready? But however, said he, Let me run. And he said unto him, Run. Then Ahimaaz ran by the way of the plain, and overran Cushi. And David sat between the 2 gates, and the watchman went up to the roof over the gate unto the wall, lifted up his eyes, and looked, and behold, a man running alone. And the watchman cried and told the king. And the king said, If he be alone, there is tidings in his mouth. And he came apace and drew near. And the watchman saw another man running, and said unto the porter, Behold, another man running alone. And the king said, He also bringeth tidings. And the watchman said, Me thinketh the one running, the foremost is running, Ahimaaz the son of Zadok. And the king said, He is a good man, and cometh with good tidings. And Ahimaaz called and said unto the king, All is well. And he fell down to the earth upon his face before the king, and said, Blessed be the Lord God, which has delivered up the men that lifted their hand against my lord the king. And the king said, Is the young man Absalom safe? And Ahimaaz said, When Joab sent the king's servant and me their servant, I saw a great tumult, but I knew not what it was. And the king said unto him, Turn aside and stand here. And he turned aside and stood still. And behold, Cushi came. And Cushi said, Tidings, my lord the king, for the Lord had avenged this day all of them that rose up against thee. And the king said unto Cushi, Is the young man safe? Absalom. And Cushi said, The enemies of my lord the king, and all that rise against thee do thee hurt, be as that young man is. And the king was much moved, and went to the chamber over the gate, and wept. And he went thus, he said, O my son Absalom, my son Absalom, would God I had died for thee, O Absalom, my son, my son. Chapter 19. And it was told Joab, Behold, the king weepeth and mourneth for Absalom. And the victory that day was turned into mourning unto all the people, for the people heard say that day how the king was grieved for his son. And the people caught them by stealth that day into the city, as people being ashamed steal away when they flee in battle. And the king covered his face, and the king cried with a loud voice, O my son Absalom, O Absalom, my son, my son. And Joab came into the house to the king and said, Thou hast shamed this day the faces of all thy servants, which this day has saved their life, and the lives of the sons and of the daughters, the lives of thy wives, and the lives of the concubines, in that thou lovest thine enemies, and hatest thy friends. For thou hast declared this day that thou regardest neither princes nor servants. This day I perceive that if Absalom had lived, and all of us had died this day, then it would have pleased thee well. Now therefore arise, go forth, speak comfortably unto thy servants, for I swear by the Lord, if thou go not forth, they will not tarry one with thee this night, and it will be worse unto thee than all the evil that befell them thee from youth till now. Then the king arose and sat in the gate, and they told all the people, saying, Behold, the king doth sit in the gate. And all the people came before the king, for Israel had fled every man before his tent. And all the people were at strife throughout all the tribes of Israel, saying, The king saved us out of the hand of our enemies. He delivered us out of the hand of the Philistines. And now he is fled out of the hand for Absalom. And Absalom, whom we anointed over us, is dead in battle. Now therefore, why speak ye not a word of the bringing the king back? And King David sent Zadok to Abiathar the priest, saying, Speak unto the elders of Judah, saying, Why are we the last to bring the king back to the house, seeing the speech of Israel is come to the king, even to his house? Ye are my brethren, ye are my bones and my flesh, wherefore then are ye the last to bring back the king? But say to Amasa, Art thou not my bone and of my flesh? God so do unto me, and more also, if thou be not captain of the host before me continually in the room of Joab. And he bowed the heart of all men of Judah, even as the heart of one man, so that they sent this word unto the king, Return thou and all thy servants. So the king returned and came to Jordan, and Judah came to Gilgal to go to meet the king, to conduct the king over Jordan. And Shimei the son of Gera, a Benjamite, which was of Bahurim, hasted and came down with the men of Judah to meet the king of David. And there were 1,000 men of Benjamin with him, and Sheba the servant of house of Saul, and his 15 sons and his 20 servants were with him, and they went over Jordan before the king. And there went over a ferry boat to carry over the king's household, and to do what he thought was good. And Shimei the son of Gera fell down before the king, as he was come over Jordan, and said unto the king, Let not my Lord impute iniquity to me, neither do thou remember that which the servant did perversely, the day my lord the king went out of Jerusalem, that the king should take it to his heart. For thy servant doth know that I have sinned. Therefore, behold, I am come, and first day, this the day of all the house of Joseph, to go down to meet my lord the king. And Abishai the son of Zeruiah answered and said, Shall not Shimei be put to death for this, because he cursed the Lord anointed? And David said, What I had to do with you, ye sons of Zeruiah, that ye should do this day be adversaries unto me? Shall there be any man put to death this day in Israel? For do I not know that I am this day king of Israel? Therefore the king said unto Shimei, Thou shalt not die. And the king sware unto him. And Mephibosheth the son of Saul came down to meet the king, and had neither dressed his feet, nor trimmed his beard, nor washed his clothes from the day the king departed until he came back again into peace. And it came to pass, when he came to Jerusalem to meet the king said, Wherefore wentest thou not with me, Mephibosheth? And he answered, O Lord, O king, my servant deceived me. For the servant said, I will saddle me an ass, that I may ride thereon, and go to the king, because thy servant is lame. And he hath slandered thy servant unto my lord my king. But my lord the king is as an angel of God. Do therefore what is good in thine eyes. First, for all my father's house were dead, men before the Lord my king, yet thou didst set thy servant among them that eat at their table. Wherefore what right they have to cry any more unto the king? The king said unto him, Why speakest thou any more of these matters? I have said, Thou and Sheba divide the land. And Mephibosheth said unto the king, Yes, let him take all, for as much as my lord the king is come again into peace unto his own house. And Barzillai the Gileadite came down from Rogelim and went over Jordan with the king to conduct him over Jordan. Now Barzillai was an aged man, even fourscore years, and he had provided the king of sustenance while he lay at Mahanaim, for he was a very great man. And the king said unto Barzillai, Come thou over me, and I will feed thee with me in Jerusalem. And Barzillai said unto the king, How long have I to live, that I should go up with thee to Jerusalem? I am this day fourscore years old, and can I discern between good and evil? Can thy servant taste what I eat and what I drink? Can I hear any more the voice of singing men and singing women? Wherefore then should thy servant be yet a burden unto the Lord my king? The servant will go a little way over Jordan with the king. Why should the king recompense it with me with such a reward? Let thy servant, I pray thee, turn back again, that I may die in my own country, and be buried with the grave of my father and my mother. And behold, thy servant Chimham, let him go over with my lord the king, and do to him what shall seem good unto thee. And the Lord answered, and the king said, Chimham shall go over with me, and I will do to him that which seems good to me. And whatsoever thou shalt require of me, that I will do to him. And all the people went over Jordan. And when the king was near, and the king kissed Barzillai and blessed him, and he returned unto his own place. And behold, all the men of Israel came to the king, and said unto the king, Why have our brethren the men of Judah stolen thee away? And all have brought the king and his household, and all David's men with him, over Jordan. And all the men of Judah answered the men of Israel, Because the king is near of kin to us. Wherefore then be ye angry for this matter? Have ye eaten at all of the king's cost, or hath he given us any gift? And then the men of Israel answered the men of Judah and said, We have 10 parts in the king. We have also more right in David than he. Why then do you despise us thus, that our advice should not at first had in bringing back our king? And the words of the men of Judah were fiercer than the words of the men of Israel. Chapter 20. And there happened to be a man of Belial, whose name was Sheba, the son of Burkai, a Benjamite, and he blew a trumpet and said, We have no part in David, neither have we inheritance to the son of Jesse, every man to his tents, O Israel. So every man of Israel went up after David, and followed Sheba the son from after David, and followed Sheba the son of Bichri. But the men of Judah clave unto the king from Jordan even unto Jerusalem. And David came unto his house at Jerusalem, and the king took 10 women of his concubines whom he had left to keep the house, and put them in ward, and fed them, and went not in unto them. And they were shut up unto the day of the dead, living in widowhood. Then said the king to Amasa, Assemble me the men of Judah within 3 days, and be thou here present. So Amasa went to assemble the men of Judah, and he tarried longer than the set time which he had appointed him. And David said unto Abishai, Now shall Sheba the son of Bichri do us more harm than did Absalom. Take thou thy Lord's servants, and pursue after him, lest he give him fenced cities and escape us. And there went out after him Joab's men, and the Kerethites, and the Pelethites, and the mighty men, and they went out of Jerusalem to pursue after Sheba the son of Bichri. And when they were at the great stone which is in Gibeon, Amasa went before him, and Joab's garment that he had put on was girded unto him, and he put on a girdle with a sword fastened upon the loins of his sheath thereof. And as he went forth, it fell out. And Joab said to Amasa, Art thou in health, my brother? And Joab took Amasa by the beard with the right hand to kiss him. And Amasa took no heed of the sword that was in Joab's hand. So he smote him therewith in the fifth rib, and shed out his bowels to the ground, and struck him not again. And he died. So Joab and Abishai his brother pursued after Sheba the son of Bichri. And one of Joab's men stood by him, and said, He that favoureth Joab, and he that is for David, let him go after Joab. And Amasa wallowed in blood in the midst of the highway. And when the man saw that all the people stood still, he removed Amasa out of the highway into the field, and cast a cloth upon him. And when he saw that every one that came by him stood still, when he removed out of the highway, all the people went on after Joab to pursue after Sheba the son of Bichri. And he went through all the tribes of Israel unto Abel, and to Bethmaachah, and all the Berites, and they were gathered together, and that went after him. And they came and besieged all him in Abel of Beth-Maachah, and they cast a bank against the city, and it stood in the trench. And all the people that were with Joab battered the wall to throw it down. Then cried a wise woman out of the city, Hear, hear, I pray thee, unto Joab, Come near hither, that I may speak unto thee. And when he came near unto her, the woman said, Art thou Joab? And he answered, I am he. And he said, Hear the words of thy handmaid. And he answered, I do hear. Then she spoke, saying, They were wont to speak in old times, saying, They shall surely counsel at Abel. And so they ended the matter. I am one of them that are peaceable and faithful in Israel. Thou seekest to destroy a city and a mother in Israel. Why wilt thou swallow up the inheritance of the Lord? And Joab answered and said, far be it from me that I should swallow up and destroy. The matter is not so. But a man of Mount Ephraim, Sheba, the son of Bichri by name, has lifted up his hand against the king, even against David, and deliver him only, and I will depart from the city. And the woman said unto Joab, Behold, his head shall be thrown to thee over the wall. Then the woman went unto all his people in her wisdom. They cut off the head of Sheba, the son of Bichri, and cast it out to Joab. And he blew a trumpet, and they retired from the city, every man to his tent. And Joab returned to Jerusalem unto his king. Now Joab was over all the host of Israel, and Benaiah the son of Jehoiada was over to Kerethites and over to Pelethites, and Adorah was over the tribute, and Jehoshaphat the son of Ahlud was recorder, and Sheba was a scribe, and Sadok and Abiathar were the priests, and Eri the Jairite was a ruler about David. Chapter 21. Then there was a famine in the days of David 3 years, a year after year, and David inquired of the Lord. And the Lord answered, And it is for Saul, and for his bloody house, and because he slew the Gibeonites. And the king called the Gibeonites, and said unto them, Now the Gibeonites were not the children of Israel, but of the remnant of the Amorites. And Saul sought to slay them in zeal to the children of Israel and Judah. Wherefore David said unto the Gibeonites, What shall I do for you? And wherewith shall I make atonement, that he bless the inheritance of the Lord? And the Gibeonites said unto him, We will have no silver nor gold of Saul, nor of his house, neither for us shalt thou kill any man in Israel. And he said, What shall he say that I will do for you? And they answered the king, The man that consumed us, and has devised against us that we should be destroyed for the remaining in the course of Israel. Let 7 men of his sons be delivered unto us, and we will hang them up unto the Lord in Gibeah of Saul, whom the Lord did choose. And the king said, I will give them. And the king spared Mephibosheth, the son of Jonathan, the son of Saul, because of the Lord's oath that was between David and Jonathan, the son of Saul. And the king took the 2 sons of Rizpah, the daughter of Ai, whom she bare unto Saul, Armoni and Mephibosheth, 5 sons of Michal, the daughter of Saul, whom she brought up for Adriel, the son of Barzillai, the Meholathite. And he delivered them into the hands of Gibeonites, and they hanged them in the hill before the Lord. And they fell all 7 together, and were put to death in the days of the harvest, in the first days, in the beginning of the barley harvest. And Rizpah, the daughter of Ai, took sackcloth, spread it for her upon the rock, and from the beginning of harvest until water dropped upon them from heaven, and suffered neither birds of the air to rest on them by day, nor the beasts of the field by night. And it was told David that Rizpah, the daughter of Ai, the concubine of Saul, had done. David went and took the bones of Saul and the bones of Jonathan his son, from the men of Jabesh Gilead, which had stolen them from the street of Bethshan, where the Philistines had hanged them, when the Philistines had slain Saul in Gilboa. And he brought up from thence the bones of Saul and the bones of Jonathan his son, and they gathered the bones of them that were hanged, and the bones of Saul and Jonathan his sons buried they in the country of Benjamin in Selah, in the sepulchre of Kish's father, and they performed all that the king had commanded. After that God was entreated for the land. Moreover, the Philistines had warred against Israel, and David went down, and his servants with them, and fought against the Philistines. And David waxed faint, and Ishbinob, which was of the sons of the giant, the weight of whose spear weighed 300 shekels of brass in weight, he being girded with an east sword, thought to have slain David. But Abishai the son of Zeruiah succored him, and smote the Philistine, and killed him. And the men of David sware unto him, saying, Thou shalt go no more with us to battle, that thou quench not the light of Israel. And it came to pass that after this, and there was again a battle with the Philistines at Gob. Then Sibbecai the Hushite slew Saph, which was the sons of the giant. And there was again a battle in Gob with the Philistines, where Elhanan, the son of Reorigim, a Bedlamite, slew the brother of Goliath the Gittite, the staff of whose spear was like a weaver's beam. And there was at a battle in Gath, where there was a man of great stature, and they had on every hand 6 fingers, and on every foot 6 toes, 24 in number, and he was also born to the giant. And when he defiled Israel, Jonathan the son of Shimeah, the brother of David, slew him. These 4 were born to the giant in Gath, and fell by the hand of David and by the hand of his servants.